If there is something the French know how to do well, it's wine and cheese. And comics, I suppose. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Jose here, welcoming you to another episode of Amazing Worlds, a much recommended episode today, because I'm going to talk about possibly, very, very much so, certainly, one of the greatest comics ever created. But before I get going, let me have a swig of the magic potion. Delicious. Now that I feel energized, revitalized, full of superhuman strength, let's talk about Asterix. Let's talk about the adventures of Asterix. The adventures of Asterix is the child. It's the spawn of the great writer René Goscinny. Pardon my French. Oh, I think it's the first time I say pardon my French after not swearing. Who would have thought? Writer René Goscinny and artist Albert Uderzo. Again, pardon my French. René Goscinny already had a bit of a career in comics before he hit the jackpot, the gold over the rainbow with Asterix. He created the Lucky Luke Western spoof character with artist Maurice. He also created Is No Good and Papa. And he was also a writer of books for children based around the character of Little Nicholas, which I've read a few as well. Albert Uderzo was his partner in this wonderful crime that they both perpetrated until Goscinny's premature death, and Uderzo carried on the series by himself. Now, what is the premise behind Asterix? It takes place somewhere in the northwestern region of France during sort of Roman times, and it's a little village that has resisted Roman invasion thanks to the superhuman strength granted by a magic potion brewed by the tribe's druid, Panoramics. And stories and adventures revolve around that. The comic first appeared in 1959 in the magazine Pilote, again, pardon my French, and it was written by Goscinny until his death in 1977. He wrote books 1 to 24 and also 32 to 34, and then Albert Uderzo acted as sole writer and artist for books 25 to 31 and book 33. After that, in 2013, Uderzo sold the rights to the characters and everything, and a new team of writers and artists took over the franchise and continued it. For me, I only consider as canon the books written and drawn by Goscinny and Uderzo. Although I also have to say that the books written by Uderzo on his own weren't as good, and the quality of the plot wasn't as strong as when Goscinny was the writer there. I mean, the first ones he did by himself were not bad at all. I think they kept up rather well, but certainly by the time we got to, I think it was called Asterix and La Traviata in English, but certainly after Asterix in India, I think the quality certainly did decrease significantly, and I actually stopped after Asterix and La Traviata. But those first 25-30 issues are just pure gold. They really are. There were also some non-canon adaptations of the stories for cinematic release. So I think it was in Europe it was called Asterix and the 12 Trials. In English it was Asterix Conquers Rome, and there was a comic issued, but it wasn't drawn by Uderzo. It was pictures taken from the movie with text rather than vignettes and dialogue from the characters. So not great, and it kind of sort of finishes the story because Asterix conquers Rome. The Romans stop being a thread to the goals, and it sort of finishes it, but then more books were created after. So it's kind of one to watch if you're a fan, but certainly an interesting take on the Hercules and the 12 Trials, but not great. Stick to the comics. The books sort of alternate in setting, so kind of it took a couple of volumes, but the adventures take place in France, in the village of Asterix, and then every other book they go and visit other countries in Europe, and eventually the Middle East and India, and those adventures abroad books are just wonderful, because the takes on the cliches and the humor on catching those little nuances of the different countries is so it's just ridiculously funny. It is cliched, but it's done in good taste. So, for instance, when Asterix in Spain, Spanish people, apparently, we party all night in the middle of the night, singing flamenco and dancing until the wee hours of the morning, and we fry everything in olive oil. When Asterix goes to Switzerland, the Swiss are obsessed with timekeeping, having safe banks, and eating fondue, melted cheese. There you go. When they go to Belgium, they eat chips and mussels. And probably one of the greatest Asterix abroad stories, Asterix in Britain, is just fantastic, particularly after having lived for so long in the UK. The spoofs and the takes on British timekeeping, the pride they take on the lawns, the drinking tea, rugby makes an appearance there. The 6 nations now, but the 5 nations of rugby, London and the Tower of London, everything about the Asterix abroad books is just fantastic. The plot, the stories are exceptionally well written. They are cohesive. They tell a fantastic story from beginning to end. Everything is well thought out. Everything follows nicely, and there's no gap. There's no filler. Every page is just a delight. The artwork is very cartoony, and it fits the story perfectly well. It developed as well as the series went on. So the first couple of volumes, the characters aren't that well defined, maybe apart from Asterix, but even the traces of the pen and the pencil were a little bit rough. But then 6-7 books in, the characters become a lot more defined, definitely established, and the cast of supporting characters in the books also grows. So to begin with, we just have Asterix. He's a small but very intelligent warrior, and his partner Obelix, which is this big sort of Ophi type figure who fell into the cauldron of magic potion when he was a little boy and has got permanent superhuman strength. And as I said, the cast of supporting characters grew over time. So the chief of the tribe, the druid, the bard of the tribe, and then the fishmonger, who is always at odds with the smithy of the tribe, and the elder man, the elder statesman of the tribe. The wives of all these characters also become established, and you just sort of start to get the in-jokes that permeate the relationship of the characters in the tribe. And the more you read, the more you actually enjoy what's going on, and the more immersive the experience into Asterix is. Like I said, Goscinny and Uderzo hit absolute jackpot with this. They made a lot of money, and the books spawned all sorts of merchandising, figures. The cookbook, I had the Asterix cookbook, go figure. When I was a kid, I used to make pancakes and follow recipes from there. There's a theme park outside of Paris, Asterix World, whatever. I would like to go at some point, maybe take my kids. There were real life movie adaptations. There were arcade games. I remember playing the arcade game as a kid, spending my quarters there. And And yeah, I would definitely recommend these comics for both children and adults, because the children will enjoy the artwork, the cartoony style, they will enjoy the adventure, and the adults will get the in-jokes and those very, like I said earlier, very tastefully done take on the ethnic stereotypes that, you know, we go through in the Adventures Abroad books. Also, the use of the typography during this series is done to great effect as well. So Goscinny and Uderzo used typesetting to denote the different languages spoken in the books. So they used this sort of Gothic print to show how the Goths, the Germans, spoke. They used a lot of umlauts on the, I don't know what you call it, that symbol there for the Vikings. Hieroglyphs, literally, the Egyptians speak in pictures. The Greek speak with kind of Greek font type. And then my favorite one, in Asterix in the Cauldron, there is a questor. The questors were the sort of tax collectors for the Roman Empire. He speaks in tax return multiple choice sort of take the relevant answer to the question. So the questor always speaks in questions with A, B, C possible options to answer to his. It's just absolutely delightful. It's fantastic. As a kid, that used to go over my head, but as an adult, thinking back on it, it's actually quite hilarious. These books are massive in Europe. I mean, I remember as a kid, every Saturday we would go to my grandparents for lunch, and after lunch my grandfather would sit on his sofa and fall asleep, and we had to respect siesta time. So I used to sneak into my uncle's bedroom, and he had quite an extensive collection of Asterix. I used to pick them up and sit next to my grandmother and read the stories in the afternoon, and truly delightful. I think overall they are an absolute masterpiece of storytelling, right up there with any comic you care to think about. I defy anyone to find anything better. Honestly, they are that good. I do own the first 28 or 29 stories. They've been collected over the years. I had this lovely hardbacks with a sort of fabric type covers. So they collected 4 volumes each, and they were in chronological order. Got them as a Christmas present once. It's fantastic. But they're still at my parents' place. And then I got a few of the singles that were released after that in the 90s. As an aside, I forgot to mention, my mind was wandering. If you want to dip your toes into Asterix, they're very quick reads, and if you are an adult reader, it's start from the beginning. You're going to enjoy them. The middle books are great, but like I said, you're going to enjoy the overall. You're going to enjoy the overall experience no matter where you go. But however, having said that, if you press me for recommendations, if you just want to read 1, 2, or 3 of them, and give you my recommendations on my top 3, top 5 Asterix books, I would say Asterix and the Cauldron, Asterix in Britain are great, Asterix Legionnaire, I don't know if that was called in English, but I'll put the covers here as I'm talking. Asterix and Co, I think, Asterix and Company, I think it was called, yes. Probably Asterix in Switzerland. It wouldn't have been called that in English. In Spanish, it was Asterix in Helvetia, because that was the Roman name for Switzerland at the time. So again, I'll leave the covers here. But anyway, those would be my recommendations of where to start if you just want to dip your toes, test the waters, and see what it's like. So yeah, this is what I've got for today. I'm actually quite looking forward, after recording this, to get my hands on them and read them again. So As usual, thank you ever so much for watching, for engaging. Thank you ever so much for liking, subscribing. I really appreciate your comments. I really appreciate some of the conversations that have come up over the last couple of weeks or so. So really, really grateful. Please, as usual, take loads and loads of care, and I'll see you next time.